Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. We're going to keep reading from al-Ajwaba al-Jaliya al-Ahkam al-Hanbaliya, or the clear answer in Hanbali Rulings by a Sheikh Musa bin Issa al-Qaddoomi rahimahullah. So let us begin. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Allahumma anfa'na bima 'allamtana wa 'allimna bima yanfa'una wa zidna ilman ya Rabbil Alameen. Qala al-muallif الشيخ موسى بن عيسى القدومي رحمه الله نفع الله به وبعلومه وعلوم مشايخنا في الدارين آمين. So we're continuing. This is lesson number 10, and in this lesson we're going to be talking about the mess ala al-khuffain, or wiping on the khuffs. And just as a reminder, we are reading from the translation by Sheikh Khalid Shah. So if you have his book, we're now at page 35. It says rulings of the masah, in parentheses, wiping on khuffs. And number 17, the question, what is the ruling of masah, or wiping on khuffs? And in parentheses he has leather socks. And I think this is a good point just to mention here that what we're going to be talking about, or the ruling here, isn't limited to khuffs, and nor are they limited to leather socks. So if we look at some of the shuruh, like Sharh al-Muntaha, which we always refer to, we can see that al-Buhuti or al-Futuhi, he mentions masal khuffain wa ma fi ma'nahuma, and so wiping on the two khuffs, and what is the like of them, or has the same meaning of them. And al-Buhuti mentions in his sharh things like al-Jawrabain, so socks, and al-Imama, or the turban, headgear, and the khimar, so this is like the head covering of the woman. So these rulings that we're talking about now are going to apply to all of these things. It's also a good point here to mention that what we're talking about now, this wiping on the khuffs, is a rukhsa, or dispensation. So this is something that can be done as opposed to what would normally be done. And here we're talking about wiping the foot, or the things that are similar to that. And linguistically, rukhsa, it has the meaning of making something easier. So in this case, it is an easier option that can be done as opposed to the what's normally required. And in our madhab, we'll see that the rukhsa is in this case considered something that's better than the washing of the feet. So if you have the ability to use this dispensation, then it is better to do it. And this is mentioned in Hashiyat al-Labadi, which is the famous Hashiyah of Nail al-Marab, the sharh or explanation of Dalil al-Talib, and also al-Buhuti mentions this in Sharh al-Muntaha. So this wiping has 7 conditions, and if we go back to our text, in the reply we can see that the Shaykh says it's permissible with 7 prerequisites, and they are: A, to wear them after complete purification with water, and he says in parentheses that is after wudu. So complete purification here basically means finishing the purification. So some of the fiqh books give the example, like for example, if you're doing the wudu, you can't wear the khuff of the right foot before finishing washing the left foot. You have to finish all the acts of the wudu, at least those obligatory farid and wajib acts, and then you can wear the khuff in a state of tahara. The next shart, or prerequisite, that they cover the area of the foot that needs to be washed in parentheses including the ankles. So the same part that we've already discussed, that it's obligatory to wash, it's also obligatory to cover with the khuff or the like of it. The next shart is the possibility to walk around in them. Now, an important point here, and we can get this from Dalil al-Talib, that when we talk about the ability to walk around in them, some of the fuqaha or madhahib, they have stipulated, for example, a minimum distance or time or something like that. But in our madhab, we talk about urf, or what is customarily understood as being able to walk around in them. And this is also maybe a good thing just to mention about the urf. Urf, this is one of the exceptions where the layman has ijtihad or can derive his own judgment. So this is opposed to the other rulings, but we'll see any time that they mention about the urf, it has to do with the own individual's perception or community's perception. Two other quick things to mention also from Dalil al-Talib. It's not a condition that the khuff be made out of leather. Generally, or traditionally, the khuff is made out of leather, but that's not a condition for a khuff to be a khuff. Likewise, it's not a condition that it be waterproof or repel water. I think that might be something that's conveyed in other madhahib, and I hear this question a lot, but to be clear, doesn't have to be leather, doesn't have to be waterproof. These are not conditions according to our madhab. And also to quickly add here, according to our madhab, one can also wipe on the thick winter socks. So this is also a common question, but the thick winter socks are allowed to be wiped on, and if you want more information, I think we have a short video about that. I'll put the link in the description. Okay, the next condition, they remain on the feet by themselves. So just to explain that further, whatever this khuff, or we can call it footgear, is, it shouldn't have to be tied or laced or somehow tightened. The exception is that the khuff, it can be maintained by wearing na'lain or sandals, but other than that, it should stay on itself. And stay on also means that it doesn't come down to the point where it would show part of the skin that needs to be covered by the khuff. Then the next condition, it's permissible to use, in parentheses, not stolen or usurped or made from silk for men. And I think that is actually quite self-explanatory. Maybe just to quickly add here, regarding the silk, it's discussed in Hashiyat al-Labadi, the Hashiyat of Nail al-Marib, that silk, even when it's permissible to wear, it can't be wiped on. So here we're talking about permissible to wear for men, because there are, we can say, certain circumstances where a male may be allowed to wear silk, but even in that case, he cannot wipe on it as like wiping on the khuff, as a dispensation, as a rukhsa, because to benefit from this rukhsa, it applies to something that has an absolute permissibility. And in this case, the silk would only have a limited permissibility according to that circumstance, and Allah knows best. The last condition is that one cannot see the skin through them. So if we go to most of the traditional books, they always mention this example of glass. It can't be made of glass. I know it sounds kind of weird to imagine, but as we said in the last lesson, a lot of the things we discuss are just kind of like theoretical. So maybe to give us a better contemporary example, we could say plastic, like a clear plastic. So one can't make a khuff out of clear plastic, even if it's meeting all the other conditions. And what's interesting is that if we see what's mentioned in Nail al-Marib, they have the interesting comment that even glass, it could be permissible if one can't see the skin through the glass. So Allah knows best, but the main point here that this khuff has to cover the foot and the skin so as that one cannot see the skin through it. Okay, we'll continue with question 18. How long will the masah last? And what is the wajib area of the masah? And he replies, it's permissible for the resident and the sinful traveler to wipe for a day and a night, meaning 24 hours, from the time that he breaks his wudu after wearing them. Parentheses, i.e., 24 hours start after breaking the wudu. And this is a good point. It's not from the time that you wear the khuff, but the time you wear the khuff and then break the wudu. And just in case you didn't pick up here, he mentions the case of the sinful traveler. So this is someone who's traveling for impermissible reasons or not meeting the conditions of traveling. Then he goes on to say, it's permissible for the traveler of a journey in which one can shorten prayers to wipe for 3 days and nights, in parentheses, 72 hours. He goes on to say, and the distance of shortening is 2 moderate days with light luggage and walking, in parentheses, approximately 80 kilometers. I think we've previously touched on the debate about how to define distance of traveling. And Al-Buhuti does mention in Sharh al-Muntaha that there is a difference of opinion on it. And we have highlighted that some of our different sheikhs have mentioned from 80 up to 130 kilometers, and Allah knows best. Then he goes on to say, it's wajib to wipe most of the upper portion of the khuff. The bottom of the foot and the heel does not take the place of the top, nor is it sunnah. So we just wipe on the tops of the khuff. Then he goes on to say, question 19, what annuls the wiping of the khuffs? The reply, 3 things invalidate the wiping. A, that which necessitates ghusl. So we still haven't studied al-ghusl, but I think at least you know some of the main things that necessitate the ghusl. B, or some of the area that the khuff should cover, i.e. the feet and ankles, becomes exposed. So if for whatever reason it becomes exposed, as we said before, maybe the khuff itself falls down, if it gets a hole in it, etc. Any time that the skin of that area becomes exposed, then you have to cease wiping. And that tahara is now no longer valid. And C, or the end of the period of wiping. So we discussed the 2 periods, 24 hours and 72 hours. So according to your circumstance, when that period ends, you can no longer wipe over the khuffs. Of course, if one is traveling and they still meet those conditions, they can then do a new full tahara, al-wudu, and then wear the khuff again and continue wiping again from that period as long as they're traveling. Then he goes on to say, is it permissible to wipe on other than khuffs? And he says yes, it's permissible to wipe on a jabira, in parentheses splint, which is wood, rags, or bandages that are tied to a bone fracture or wound. So first we mentioned, that other things can be wiped on in addition to the jabira, including the amama or the turban, the headgear, and the khimar or the headgear of the woman. So regarding the imama, the turban of the man, one should wipe over the majority of the turban. Regarding the khimar for the woman, the khimar itself should be the kind that is coming down around the face to the neck and the throat, this area. If it doesn't, then one cannot wipe on this. And we see now that some women are wearing, we might call it like a female turban, which is not appropriate, does not fulfill the conditions of being a head cover that's covering all of the aura. But this, in case that one woman is wearing this, which, as we said, she shouldn't be wearing it, but if she is wearing it, she can't wipe on it. And just as a clarification, I said headgear. I don't want this to be confusing, but maybe better just to say the imama or the turban. Other things that might fall under headgear, like what we might call a kufiya, this would not fulfill the conditions to wipe over. The amama is covering most of the head, whereas some of these smaller types of headgear and hats don't fulfill that. And in the case of the jabira or the splint, bandages, or now we can also add like casts, this might be more common in our modern terminology, one must wipe on the whole thing, or at least as much as they can, in case wiping is going to cause some harm. So the author goes on to say, this is the next question, 21, inform me what is the ruling on wiping on them? And the reply, if it is applied while in a state of tahara and, number 1, does not go beyond the place of necessity, he washes everything and wipes the wound. 2, if it goes beyond the actual wound and there is harm in taking it off, it's wajib to make tayammum with the wiping. And then the other scenario, if he placed it on without the state of tahara, then he washes everything else and he makes tayammum without wiping, whether he exceeds beyond the wound or not. So the first point I want to make here, God forbid that you or anyone in your family gets injured, breaks a bone, etc., where they need to have a splint or a bandage or a cast. Do whatever you can to make wudu and be in a state of tahara before this is put on, because this is going to simplify your life. Now, maybe we'll also try to explain this visually. So hopefully now you're seeing a table where we can talk about 2 different variables. Those variables being wearing this, let's just call it in this case bandage. Bandage takes the meaning of splint as well as cast. Wearing it in a state of ritual purity, and that it, we can say, inaccessively exceeding the place of the injury. So these are 2 variables of how we wear this bandage. As a result, we will see that one either wipes over this bandage and or makes a dry ablution or a tayammum. Now, as we look at these scenarios and the results, the one thing that we can say always happens is that whatever you're able to wash when you do the wudu, you wash it, regardless. But now, in the case, like I said, I hope visually it's going to be clearer here. This is our, we can say, optimal situation. You wear this bandage in a state of purity, and the bandage does not exceed the place of injury. Then, as we said, you wash what you can. Then you will do the wiping over the bandage, and that's it, you're done. That's how you will do the wudu in this situation. Now, if we have a similar scenario that you do wear this bandage in a state of purity, but unfortunately the bandage is exceeding the place of the injury, we can say exceeding without a reason, you still, as we said, wash what you can, and then you will have to both wipe over the bandage and make a tayammum, which is the dry ablution. We haven't gotten to this dry ablution yet, but it will be coming soon. Now, the next two scenarios are in the case that one does not or cannot wear this bandage in the state of purity. So, in case that both he's not in the state of purity, but the bandage does not exceed the place of injury. Okay, this is third scenario. Not worn on purity, but bandage does not exceed the place of injury. One will wash what he can, but does not wipe, and instead makes a tayammum. The last scenario, he's not worn it in a state of ritual purity, but it does not exceed the place of injury. It will in fact be the same ruling what we've just described. You wash what you can, you don't wipe, then you make tayammum. So, as I said, maybe this is a bit much. I hope you're seeing the chart. Maybe you can just keep looking at the chart, take a screenshot of the chart, but I think that will be the guideline of what to do in these different situations. We will conclude here. The next lesson, inshallah, we will talk about the invalidators of wudu. So, as always, please don't forget us and our mashayikh and all the Muslimin in your dua. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een.